Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I realise it's been a while since I posted and I apologise for that, but I have just been so incredibly busy. I realised my last video wasn't the most uplifting thing I've ever posted, but I am happy to say that I now have a position secured for September. It's not what I was expecting at all, but I think it will really suit me and I really look forward to starting. Now that I do have a job, I feel like I can give a better insight into NQT job application tips, just because I know that that's actually worked for me. I have actually never received real criticism about what I've written. When I have received interview rejections or not received an interview to start with, it hasn't been because of my NQT personal statement. So I thought the first set of tips I could give you is about your NQT personal statement. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is almost like your UCAS personal statement. You are trying to sell yourself off the insights that you have gained from your experience, as well as detailing parts of your experience that have been really significant to you and have helped you to grow in your profession. Now, when you Google NQT personal statement examples or tips, you can get a lot of mixed messages. I had written my whole NQT personal statement based on a website that gave a really nice example, and I really liked that and I flowed with it. And when I then received some, I think I was contacted by a professional mentor that my skit arranged, and she said, yeah, my first opening paragraph would be this, followed by this. And that wasn't at all what I had done. So I don't think there's a right or wrong in regards to the structure or the content. However, there are some tips that I would really advise you apply when writing your NQT personal statement. The first thing I would do is write down things you want to include. So on a piece of paper, scrap paper, whatever, bullet point things that you really want to include in there. Because sometimes when you start getting into the flow of something, you end up forgetting those points and actually putting points that wouldn't be as significant or as memorable to your future employers. So for example, I wanted to mention in mine that I had a really enlightening and honestly incredible experience with a little boy with autism in my second placement. So even though I was only there for 6 weeks, he had such a huge impact on me and my understanding of special educational needs. I knew I had to put that in there. Another thing that I knew I wanted to put in there were things that I thought would make me stand out. So I'm fluent in French, I have a musical background, I ran a choir in my main placement, that kind of thing. So first tip, jot down key things that you want to include, and that will almost help you, maybe not, make paragraphs that you can then put the points into. So you might find yourself putting loads of points about differentiating work or experience with SEND. If so, that's brilliant. You already know you're going to have a paragraph on that. And then you might realise that you don't have many points for other topics that are also crucial. So you think, okay, I need to focus on that and make that an emphasis. My second point will be on experience. I had 2 interviews, 2 rejections, and every single time my feedback was, you don't have enough experience. On one of the interviews, which kind of surprised me, I must admit, they said that I didn't put enough of my own experiences into the answers of my questions, even though I actually could think of examples, but at the time I just didn't think it was appropriate. Even if they don't ask, they want to see you have experience with things. So say in your NQT personal statement, you write, I understand the importance of differentiating and catering to all children's needs, as this is, I don't know, super important, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but you don't give an example of how you have differentiated in the past. You don't say any obstacles you might have overcome when differentiating work, or how your differentiated work has benefited the children's progress. Then that sentence is almost void. It's almost pointless. It's like, why did you add it? Why did you bother? You know? And in some personal statements, they might limit you to a certain amount of pages. Some statements might be limited to a word count. So my first draft was 2 pages, which was perfect for the application I was doing. And then my next one was, you're limited to 1,300 words. So some stuff had to go. And that's when I realised some of those sentences actually were pointless. They didn't add anything. There was just no weight to them, you know? And by adding an experience or an example is such a good way to prove your point, as well as showing how you've grown from that or what you learned from it, those kind of things. Number 3, don't be scared, and this might be slightly controversial, but don't be scared to put in lessons that you have learned or things that you found tricky during your training year. I had an interesting experience in my main placement. There were quite a few children who did have behavioural issues, to the point that we even had to go to an external organisation to ask for advice, my mentor and I did actually talk about this, because if they were to ask for documents, there would be a lot of targets around behaviour management, and they would see reports where my tutor has come in and observed that. And I think being honest is actually quite admirable, and employers see that. They see you as an NQT anyway who has lacked experience compared to a teacher of I don't know how many years, but for them to see, okay, she found this tricky but she has overcome this, or she is working on this by, then they say, okay, she is ready to learn, she is ready to strive in her professional development, she is being proactive in improving this aspect of her practice. Makes you look a whole lot better than if you don't mention it, you pretend everything was smooth sailing, you arrive in the classroom, suddenly you panic because they're not expecting you to require, I don't know, extra support or extra guidance because you didn't mention your previous struggles, and they're kind of like, something is a bit off. So I would say be honest. I literally did use the word obstacle and challenges in my NQT statement, but I turned it into a positive thing where I could reflect and show that I didn't let this get me down and I continue to move forward and improve myself. Number 4, adapt to your school. Please. Please, 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 please. And if you do adapt, which you should, please remember to change the name of your school. Oh my goodness. Like if you say, okay, this is a random school, I don't even know a school with this name, but oh, I would love to work in Hampstead School because da-da-da-da, and then you apply for another school called Saint something, and you still have Hampstead in your NQT statement, straight away you're out, you know, you're in the no pile. So when you adapt, I would do the following things. Read the school's values and ethos, read their behaviour policy, and read their safeguarding and SEND policy. The safeguarding one is, I didn't mean to swear there. The safeguarding one is especially more for interview prep, but the SEND, behaviour policy, ethos and values, they are all really good things to mention in your NQT personal statement and mention how they link to your ideologies and your teaching ethos as well. I think quoting it, don't do it in like quotation marks, but if you write a statement and then say which is in line with your behaviour policy at whatever the school or something like that, I think it shows that you've read it. If you say something really generic like, I went to work at this school because they put children first, well, all schools are meant to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So yeah, by all means refer to their website, read their policies, and if you can, and there's similarities with that school as the school that you're on placement at, say I have experience with this kind of behaviour policy, or I have had experience with this behaviour policy and this behaviour policy, and I found that this one, which is also the one used at the school you're applying, was really, really beneficial and children responded better to that, and I personally preferred using this because. Something like that, but make sure to adapt it to your school. If you end up saying, I found it was really beneficial that children took a 2-minute time out outside, and in their behaviour policy it says never send a child outside, time out should be in the classroom, it's just a bit awkward if anything. Number 5, and I will make this one the last one so that they are not completely overwhelmed, because there will be mixed messages on the internet and whichever source you go to, but keep it updated. This sounds so obvious because we do this with CVs, but I honestly didn't think about it. And when I had that call with the professional mentor, she said a lot of people will write their NQT statement, adapt it to the schools, which is all brilliant, but then they won't refresh it or they won't update it. And I was just kind of sat there thinking, yep, that's me 100%. Especially now as NQTs, we have missed a fair few months of school. We haven't been in the classroom, and so you need to show the employer, your future employer, that you haven't just been sitting and enjoying the sun outside. You have been maybe working on your CPD, or you have been doing extra reading, or you have been planning content for the children at your placement. Even if you're not the one physically delivering it, you are still engaged in their school life. Something like that, so that they can see, A, you are keeping it update, B, you are still abiding by the teaching standards, you are still being part of school life, you haven't just kind of gone off the radar and given up, so to speak. And also it can help you to overcome any barriers that they might believe you have due to this whole corona thing. So they might think, okay, well, she hasn't had much experience, and you know, TA deployment was one of her last targets and now she's not working with a TA, so that's going to be it. But if you say, I have been working on, despite not being in the classroom, I have been working on my targets that were set prior to lockdown through CPD courses, I have reflected upon these in my notes, or I have gone out of my way to do more research and read a book on it, you know, suddenly they think, oh, okay, so she might not have done it directly face to face, but she still has been working on her professional development. Okay, I think that all made sense. So that is the end of the video. I wanted to keep it really nice and short, although I see on my camera it's already 15 minutes, but hopefully I'll cut it down. And that it's beneficial to you. Hopefully you can go away and either start writing your NQT personal statement. There are good examples out there. I just didn't want to confuse people and say this might go here or this might go here, because there's no right or wrong answer really. So hopefully you can go away, start writing this, or if you have written your NQT personal statement already but you're not getting any success regarding jobs or hearing back from employers or getting interviews, then maybe reflect on this video, go back to your NQT personal statement and see if you can make any changes, whether that's adapting to the school a little more, or updating it on what you're currently doing, or maybe getting rid of pointless sentences that are taking up space and replace it with more beneficial and weighted ones, or add evidence and experience into there so that you can support your statements. If you like this and you found it useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more teacher content. See you later!